abuse we have observed and documented, which show worrying signs of repression and intimidation that is breeding a climate of fear in the country. Moreover, wherever there is repression of free speech and media freedom, it is one of the signs that civic space is threatened and continues to shrink in Nigeria. Freedom of expression is a human right. Various international treaties, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights have all stated that freedom of expression is a human right, and countries have obligations in the spirit of international cooperation and global progress to enforce them. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, provides in Section 39(1) that every person shall be entitled to freedom of expression, including freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart ideas and information without interference. The section goes on to provide that the right includes the right to own, establish, and operate any medium for the dissemination of information, ideas, and opinions. It recognizes that this right operates within regulations of the law, and most importantly, it states that the law must be reasonably justified. However, the testimonies and evidence Amnesty International has documented, and which will be presented to you today, show that the balance required by states to ensure that the freedom of expression is respected in the context of its laws is tilting dangerously away from the very essence and character of the rights itself. Laws such as the Terrorism Prevention Act, as amended, and the Cybercrime Act Prohibition Prevention Act are being applied by Nigerian authorities and their agents in a manner that clamps down on the press and restricts freedom of expression. Individual journalists, media activists, and bloggers have become a target of laws meant to protect our collective safety and security. In 2019 alone, at least 19 journalists and bloggers have been detained for sharing information or for merely just doing their job. Media houses are also targeted, and some have been raided. In our report, we highlight 2 radio stations, Breeze 99.9 FM, Nasarawa State, and Fresh 105.9 FM in Oyo State, which were demolished under alleged breaches of environmental or land laws, with little or no time to respond to the evictions and the demolition notice that were served on them. When Amnesty International Nigeria launched the Freedom of Expression campaign in January 2019, we raised the issue about the verbal threats, harassment, intimidation, physical assaults, raids, arbitrary arrests, and detentions being faced by journalists and other media professionals in Nigeria. We present to you today that they are on the rise, and government, both at national and state level, must immediately put an end to these violations. The government has an obligation to respect, protect, promote, and fulfill the rights of people to share information and to end this climate of fear and repression across the country. Amnesty International is therefore calling on the Nigerian authorities to 1. Immediately end violations and abuses of the rights to freedom of expression, freedom of information, media freedom, and personal liberty by ensuring that journalists, bloggers, and media activists have access to information and are able to do their job freely without any fear of reprisal. 2, to thoroughly and effectively investigate allegations of attacks against journalists, bloggers, and media activists, and bring to justice anyone suspected to be responsible through fair trials. 3, to adopt appropriate measures towards the full and effective realization of rights to freedom of expression, media freedom, and personal liberty, and ensure the effective implementation of the Freedom of Information Act 2011. 4, to take urgent steps to amend the Cybercrime Act and other laws that unduly restrict the rights to freedom of expression, freedom of information, media freedom, and personal liberty, and bring all those laws in strict compliance with Nigeria's international human rights obligations and commitments. And finally, 5, we call on the Nigerian authorities to issue clear directives to the police, to the military, officials of the DSS, and other state agents to refrain from applying existing laws in a manner that restricts or interferes with freedoms, particularly the right to freedom of expression, to freedom of information, media freedom, and personal liberty, particularly of journalists, bloggers, activists, and other media practitioners. Expressing dissenting opinions should not land you in jail. Disseminating information should not lead to criminalization. Journalism is not a crime. Freedom of expression is a fundamental human right. Journalists, bloggers, and activists are not the enemy. We are not the enemy. Let us stand for human rights. I thank you very much and welcome you once again. Thank you.
On the 16th of September 2019, by the men of the Akwa Ibom State Environmental Protection and Waste Management Agency, while they were raiding a major street, Ibom Plaza, in Akwa Ibom State. So I took pictures of their activities, and over 15 of them clamped down on me, seized my phone from me, and then I was taken to court where we met the absence of the magistrates, and from there I was taken to prison where I was detained for 3 days before my union got away that I'm in prison, because at the first day when I was arrested, I wasn't given a right. I was barred from making phone calls, not until some other person who was arrested alongside myself lent me his phone, which I used to get to my family. And that's when they started running around and alerting every other person to know that I was being arrested. So that was what I faced. And luckily for me, so many people stood up to speak on my behalf. And I'm very grateful to Amnesty International. They've been there for me all through the way and up till this very moment. I'm really grateful. And I believe in my own way, I'll join this campaign to make sure that other journalists do not face this. We educate the society and let them know that without journalists, you wouldn't know what is happening. And this thing has really led me to know that there are lots of people who are in prison for not just committing any offense, like I interacted with some of the inmates there. So what I would really like for us to do, and Amnesty International too, let us not just stop this campaign at freedom of expression for for journalists. Other Nigerians too need your help. So for those inmates, I believe if we can take a step now to maybe review their cases. And not because I met a mother that said she left her children from the first day she was arrested. She has not been able to communicate with anybody, so nobody knows. And she has children of about 2, 4, 6 ages. So who is taking care of them? Nobody knows of her whereabouts. I met another person that said the police claimed she was dead, but she wasn't dead. She has been in prison for almost 2 years now, and nobody knew of her whereabouts. So let's take those campaigns away from journalists too, and also get to other Nigerians who need this help. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you once again. I'm grateful.
Wife of Agbajalingo is a journalist. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I break down because I feel so pained. We now live in fear. We are threatened. My life is threatened. My business is threatened. My husband's life is threatened. I don't know. My husband is a journalist. He just exposed a corruption of 500 million naira in the state, Cross River State. And instead of the governor to address the issue, he went to arrest him. He said 500 million naira is missing. 500 million naira that is meant for microfinance bank of Cross River State. What is happening to that money? He refused to address the issue. Came up to pick my husband, held my staff for 4 hours, hostage in my store. And so people couldn't come in to buy. If you go to my store now, we live in fear every day. We can't sleep. We can't do business. So my husband's business job is threatened, mine is threatened, and life is threatened. It says something, when freedom of speech is affected, other aspect is also affected. Freedom of movement, we are afraid of going out. I go out, I make sure I return before evening because I'm scared that somebody can just come and pick me up because of the way they picked my husband up. We live in fear every day. I also want to use this opportunity to talk to other journalists because I think they are also playing along these politicians, these tyrants that are abusing the rights of journalists. They are the ones they are using to disseminate the lies. So they should, if you are a journalist here, please try and stand on the path of the truth. The truth will always prevail. Please, I beg you, if you are a journalist here, stand on the path of the truth. It is for the good of all of us, of all citizens in the country, in our various states. I want to thank Amnesty International. I'm so sorry, I'm so confused and in so much pain that I can't really say much. But then, I know my presence here has spoken volume. Journalism is not a crime. We only tell the truth. Please, I want Amnesty International to also talk to Cross River State government because it's not only my husband my husband is in prison today. This is close to 2 months now. By next week, it will be 2 months that my husband has been in incarceration. We were humiliated. We were humiliated even before his arrest. We were humiliated. I was disgraced before they took him. And they finally took him and they have refused to release him. They have slammed all kinds of charges on him. Treason, terrorism, gangster, cultism, all sorts, just for exposing the truth, for telling the truth. Please, Amnesty International, please, Nigerians, please, journalists, it might be your turn tomorrow. Today is Agbajaningo's turn, it's Mary's turn, it's all those people's turn. Tomorrow, it might just be that you laugh and they will charge you for treason. So don't cover the truth. If you are a journalist here, please don't play along with them. Say the truth the way it is. The questions these journalists are asking, they should answer these questions, not threaten them, not intimidate them, not incarcerate them. No. Thank you.
Just a bit of a background before I talk about what happened to me about 2 weeks ago. We live in very, very dangerous times. The climate of fear and repression in this country should be of concern to any lover of democracy. Freedom underpins democracy. It's unfortunate that we say we are a democracy. We live in a period of civil rule, civilian rule, where freedom of expression, freedom of association ought to be the norm. Rather, what we get every day is continuous repression, attack on citizens, attack on journalists. I would like us to focus on what Ms. Sekere from Akwa Ibom State talked about, in the sense that there are so many people in detention, nobody knows about all of that, and I think it's something that should be of concern. It's not just journalists. What happened to me 2 weeks ago went viral, so to say, because maybe I have a bit of name recognition, and those who arrested me, that was what they were focusing on. So in a sense, it was because they thought there was a lot of pressure on them and they felt the need to release me, but not before asking me to write an undertaking, which I thought was quite humiliating. So I had arrived the country on September 29, on a Sunday at about 4:15 on a Lufthansa Airways flight, went to pick up my bags. And as I picked up my bag, I was about to exit the airport. Somebody just stopped me and flashed his ID card and said, I'm from the DSS. We need you to follow us to our office. I know the drill. I've had experiences with DSS as a student at the University of Calabar, as a journalist many, many years ago. So I knew not to, make any noise or try to draw attention. I followed them, and they took me in. For about 30 minutes, nobody said anything. They asked for my phone, they asked for my passport, I gave it to them. I sat down, pulled out a book from my bag, crossed my leg, and started reading. Every now and then, one of them would come and say, oh, Oga, don't worry, there'll be nothing, just 5-10 minutes, everything will be okay. And I didn't bother asking them what the problem was. And I didn't know, but I didn't want to worry them. Then about 30 minutes later, one of them, who appeared to be the leader, turned to me and said, you are a Biafran, how come you have a Nigerian passport? I said, I beg your pardon, I'm a Nigerian, that's why I have a Nigerian passport. There is no country called Biafra, so I couldn't possibly have a Biafran passport. But he said, that's not what's written on your shirt. By the way, I was wearing a T-shirt at one for almost 4 years. The inscription on the T-shirt is We Are All Biafran, which is the title of a book I published in May 2016 and was republished in December 2018. And they didn't say anything for about 2 hours. They left me there. As I said earlier, I know the drill. Part of it is psychological. They want to wear you down. They want to get you angry. They want to provoke you and all of that. But I didn't take any of that in. I just continued reading. Then at about 6:30, they said, oh, you have to go follow us to our headquarters. I still didn't ask them what the problem was. They took me, I went into their pickup vehicle with my bags, about 3 of them. Then we drove to the headquarters. We got there, nobody said anything. They just put me in some kind of reception area, probably trying to make contact. Of course, my phone was ringing and they wouldn't allow me to answer the calls. Meanwhile, people knew, because I had a meeting for 8 p.m. that evening, so people knew I'd arrived in the country and they were calling me. So I asked one of the officers, I said, could you please turn off the phone? He said, no, we can't turn off the phone. Then if we turn off the phone, people will be worried about you. I said, no. If the phone is on and I don't pick the call, then that's when people will be worried about me. Luckily, before I left the airport, I'd asked them for the phone to say I needed, because a friend of mine was already waiting to pick me up at the airport. So I quickly sent a message to him, picked up by DSS, going to headquarters. So I think he was the one that subsequently informed friends and associates and media houses. About 5 hours into my ordeal, an officer came in and started asking questions. Oh, who are you? What do you do? I explained myself, and he said, well, we got this report that some people were scared about the T-shirt you were wearing in the flight coming to Abuja. Obviously, maybe they had reported, and they said, oh, because there was some planned protest or insurrection in Abuja, and you were coming into the country to be part of it. I said, well, first of all, I live in Nigeria. I just traveled 3 weeks earlier to complete my studies and attend 1 or 2 conferences outside. So I couldn't possibly be coming back to be part of any insurrection. Then they moved from there to say, oh, this T-shirt you're wearing can cause disaffection. when you wear it into town, people could start protesting. And I said, why would they do that? First of all, the inscription on my T-shirt is the title of my book. I said, oh, we are not interested in your book. It's the T-shirt we are interested. And I reiterated, trying to play like, you should be interested in the book. The book is more important than the T-shirt. I said, oh, the book is on Amazon, in bookshops around the country. And so he said, no, we are not interested in the T-shirt. We are not interested rather in the book, we are interested in the T-shirt. I said, I have so many of these T-shirts, and I wear these T-shirts every time I travel, both internally and outside the country. And then he now said, oh, you know, if you wear this T-shirt, we also have report that if you wear this T-shirt into town, some people are planning to attack you. And he said, I know if they attack you, then the iPod people would, there will be reprisal attack by iPod, then there will be breakdown of law and order and mayhem. I said, I've been wearing this T-shirt for 3.5 years, since the book was first launched in May 2016. He said, are you sure? Where do you wear it to? I wear it to the office. Every Friday, the T-shirt is like my default casual uniform, a pair of jeans and a T-shirt. Anyway, they didn't want to hear any of that. Their interest was that I had to. So the guy just cut to the chase and said, well, the only condition we'll let you go is that you have to submit the T-shirt and write an undertaking that you never ever wear the T-shirt again. You know. So we started arguing back and forth. I said, well, taking off this T-shirt is not a problem for me because I have 2 extra of the T-shirt, which I actually did because I wore them outside, and I have a few more. He said, no, it's okay. You know, we don't just take this T-shirt off and write that you would not wear the T-shirt again. And he left, came back, brought some papers, about 7 pages for me to fill, details, family, and all of that, what I do, school, background, and so on. It was quite distressing, you know. When I finished that, he took the papers away and just wanted me to, right? So what I then wrote that I recounted my experience, saying that they've asked me to say the only condition that I was going. I don't know if the guy actually read what I wrote. And I said they asked me to write that the condition for letting me go is for me to take off the T-shirt. So he took it and said, oh, you need to call somebody to come and stand surety for you. So I now asked them to give me my phone. They did. As I was about to call my former boss, I said, oh, don't bother. Don't bother calling the person. Then we'll just let you go as long as you give us the T-shirt. So in the midst of the discussion, they actually forgot to take the T-shirts. So at about 10:30, they drove me out of the premises. They said, oh, let's take you home. Of course, I wouldn't allow them to take me home. So as we moved out of the premises, I called a friend of mine. She said, okay, I'll meet you at Bobo Street by the side of the road. So we drove to Bobo Street. When we got to Bobo Street, they moved my things from my bags from their vehicle to my friend's vehicle, and they said, you still have to give us this T-shirt. So I literally had to, I was in the streets, I took off this T-shirt, then went into my bag, got another shirt and put on. You know, I left. So that was it. I mean, it ended there. But it could have been worse if it wasn't somebody who had, as I said, some kind of name recognition. Because the guy told me that when he first came into the hall, he said, who are you? You know, I didn't know you were such an important person. For 2 hours, people have been texting, sending WhatsApp message from around the world. I couldn't use my phone, and I had closed for the day. I wanted to come back and find out who is this person that everybody is calling me about. So I think quickly, the lessons here is that we live in a climate of fear. But that's not what should concern us. What should concern us is what we're doing about it. So it seems, and I've said this repeatedly, that we've moved from the era of what you say or write on social media to now what you're wearing. Who knows what's next? Perhaps what you're thinking. Somebody could actually stop you on the road or come to your office and say, you are thinking this, you're planning this, and you will be the one to prove to them that you are not thinking what they think you are thinking. So there is a need, concerted effort for us to, raise our voices, come together, build coalitions, know what is happening, particularly in the States. It's so sad. Just a few days, there was this report, a young guy posted something on Facebook in Jalingo, Taraba State, and he was now asked they expelled him from school because they claimed that he didn't finish his registration. It turns out that it was because of what he had done or what he had written on Facebook against the governor of the state. So once again, a big thank you to Amnesty.